You already know hacking is illegal. But you know why? Okay, sure. Hacking is illegal because it's against the law, but that's just saying the same thing with different words. The question is, what law makes hacking illegal? The big one is the Federal Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, also known as the CFAA for short. And on June 3rd, 2021, the Supreme Court issued a major ruling clarifying what is illegal hacking and what is not illegal hacking. If you ever access password-protected computer systems, you'll want to know what counts as hacking and what doesn't. And that's just what we're going to talk about on today's episode of The Legal Mind, How the Law Thinks. Today's episode is Hacking and the Law. Our story begins with a police sergeant in Georgia by the name of Nathan Van Buren. One day, Van Buren approached Andrew Albo to ask for a personal loan. Albo thought Van Buren was trying to shake him down for cash, so he went to the FBI and asked for help. The FBI was intrigued by Albo's story, and so the FBI started surveilling Van Buren. Albo, now working for the FBI, asked Van Buren to search a state law database for a license plate purportedly belonging to a woman whom Albo had met at a local strip club. Albo, who was now working undercover for the FBI, told Van Buren that he wanted to make sure that the stripper was not an undercover police officer. Who says that the FBI doesn't have a sense of humor? Albo generously offered to pay Van Buren $5,000 to conduct the search. As part of his job as a police officer, Van Buren had access to the state's license plate database, but he knew that he was not allowed to search the database for personal purposes. But then, $5,000 is $5,000. So Van Buren went ahead and did the search. Instead of getting the $5,000 he was expecting, Van Buren got arrested by the FBI and was charged with violating the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Clearly, you can't trust anyone anymore these days. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is a federal law that was enacted in 1986 in response to concerns about hackers breaking into computer systems.
Jim, how do I get into that system? I want to play those games. I don't believe that any system is totally secure.
Well, you'll never get in through the frontline security, but you might look for a back door.
The CFAA makes it a crime if you intentionally access a computer without authorization or exceed authorized access. In other words, there are two ways to go to jail under the CFAA. The first way is if you access a computer without authorization, and the second way is if you exceed your authorized access. The question for the Supreme Court was, when he ran the unauthorized license plate search, did Nathan Van Buren violate the CFAA by either accessing a computer without authorization or by exceeding his authorized access? There were a couple of key facts. First, Van Buren had been given a password to the license plate database for use as part of his job. Second, Van Buren had been specifically trained not to use the database for an improper purpose, which meant no personal use. Everyone agreed that Van Buren had not accessed the license plate database without authorization. He was specifically authorized to access that database, and the police department had voluntarily given him a password to do so. He didn't steal the password or somehow circumvent the password system. In other words, he didn't break into the system, so he was clean on accessing the computer without authorization. But what about exceeding his authorized access? Here things weren't so clear. On the one hand, the police department policy was clear. Police officers were not allowed to use their passwords to access the database for personal use. Van Buren accessed the database for personal use to get the $5,000 from Albo. So, according to the government, Van Buren's access of the database exceeded what he was authorized to do. On the other hand, the password that the department had given Van Buren authorized his access to the license plate database. Van Buren only accessed the computer system that his login credentials specifically authorized him to do. So, according to Van Buren, he never exceeded his authorized access because he only accessed what his work-provided password allowed him to access. Now, because this case was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, you can probably guess that there are good arguments on both sides of this debate. But I know what you're really interested in is, what did the Supreme Court decide? So here's the bottom line. After lots of analysis, in a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court held that exceeding authorized access means entering a part of a computer system to which a computer user lacks access privileges. In other words, if you have a password that was given to you by the computer owner, you can't exceed your authorized access if all you do is use that password that you were given. Here's how the Supreme Court put it. In sum, an individual exceeds authorized access when he accesses a computer with authorization, but then obtains information located in particular areas of the computer, such as files, folders, or databases, that are off limits to him or her. In other words, if you give someone the keys to your house, it's not breaking in if they use the key to go inside. They're only breaking in if they go to a room that is locked with a different key and then force their way into that room that is off limits. With this clarification, the CFAA's two parts come together. They both prohibit breaking into a computer system. The accessing a computer system without authorization piece prohibits outsiders from breaking in. The exceeding authorized access piece prohibits insiders from breaking into parts of a computer system where they haven't been given a login key. So, what happened to Van Buren? The Supreme Court tossed out his conviction. He only accessed the parts of the database that his password allowed him to access, so he didn't break in anywhere, and so he didn't violate the CFAA. This isn't to say that Sergeant Van Buren's conduct was ethical or without consequences or legal. It was none of those things. The point is only that what Van Buren did wasn't illegal hacking under federal law. So now you know what hacking is under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. But one final note of caution. Many states have their own anti-hacking laws, and those laws do not always mirror the federal CFAA. In other words, the same act might be legal under the CFAA and still be illegal under state law. The best practice is to always exercise caution and always do your homework. And that's going to do it for this episode of The Legal Mind. As always, this is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, consult a lawyer. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.